Hello. So I've been thinking an awful lot recently about Steiner's faculty of the soul, feelings particularly. Now, out of the three, so there's the willing, the feeling, and the thinking. The feelings is really standing out to me as, well, first of all, the thing I've really been focused on for a while, even though I didn't necessarily have the language for it. But also when I look around the world, in the West, particularly right now, I see that that's the challenge that most people are having, at least from my vantage point. So let's go into what the feelings faculty is. So the feelings has this quality of mediation about it. If we talk elementally, it's associated with water, emotions, but it's also mediating between the body and the mind. It's sitting between them. So the feelings is the balancing point, if you like, between the body and mind, but also willing and thinking, as far as Steiner is concerned. Now, another similar model, at least to my mind, is Plato's tripartite soul, the three parts of the soul as he saw them. Now, the three parts are, as far as an individual is concerned, our appetites, our spiritedness, and our reason. They're the three parts, in the same order as I was relating to with Steiner's three parts, three faculties. But he also, not just as faculties as or parts of an individual soul, he looks at this on a societal level. So what do the classes of people look like when we view it through that lens? The appetites are the merchant class, people who just want to go to work, come home, and enjoy the fruits of their labors. Most people. The warrior class, then, or the auxiliaries, are the spiritedness. They are the police, the military. They keep the order, keep the peace. But they are auxiliary too. They take their orders from reason, or the guardian class, the philosophers. But they put them in that position. You know, the warrior class could decide to just tear it all down, but they accept reason's superiority, essentially. But the auxiliaries are standing in the middle. They're deciding to and taking orders from reason, from the philosopher class, the guardians, and also then using that guidance to keep the merchants in line, to keep our appetites in line. So our spiritedness that has to keep our appetites in mind, keep our will in mind, and taking its marching orders from our thoughts, our thinking. Now, in The Lord of the Rings, we can see this all, I believe, represented by Aragorn. He is the feelings. He is the auxiliary warrior class. His whole MO is to move toward his love, which is represented by the elven princess, perhaps you can call her that, Arwen, who is the daughter of Elrond, who is essentially a king. It seems like this. It seems like he's an elven king in the story. To do so, he's been challenged by Elrond to become a king, the temporal king of men over the lands of men, which is just something he has to do in order to get to where he really wants to go. So become the king is a consequence, really, of his real direction toward love. In order to become the king, he literally has to face the fear of death, which is disembodied in the dead, in the paths of the dead. So he has to go in to where the dead live and command them. And that is his role only. He's the only person on the earth who can do that job because of his noble lineage. So for those who've been paying attention, I've been thinking a lot about how to sort the world out. And this is coming a lot into it. The answer is simple in a way. Sort yourself out first, be the change you want to see, yada, yada. We all know that. But how do we do that? Well, I think as far as the feelings is concerned, and if that is indeed the biggest challenge we have on the planet right now, particularly in the West, then it's a matter of embracing change. More symbolically, change is death. We can see this in the tarot. The tarot card, death, represents profound change. Not a physical death necessarily, probably most of the time not, more of a psychological death from who we were before to who we can become, from one state to another state. It's an improvement. It's an ascension, if you like, rising up to a higher octave, to a higher vibration. But in order to face death, how do we do that? We need to cultivate courage. So what is courage? So I would follow Richard Abbott's thinking in his book Soul Strong and see the link to that below. I'll also put a link to a video, a chat me and Richard had above. And Richard talks about the Courage being the willingness to face and overcome our inner struggles, which could be best seen as the temptations, or you could use the frame as the temptations of the 7 deadly sins from Christianity, but, you know, going way back to Plato again and the Greeks. This is what chivalry was based upon. Instead of knights or knights who could have very easily been seen as just rampaging around the countryside, smashing things up and killing people as barbarians, in order to leave a good impression behind for the sake of their master, the king, if you like, or whoever the lord was they were serving, they had to behave in a certain way outside of the battlefield. They had to be chivalrous. They had to have that discipline and courage, honor. So the work of the knight is the balancing, and there's that sense of mediation again, between being soft and hard, masculine and feminine, murderous and sacrificing. That mediation, that balancing, again, is shown here. And this is what C.S. Lewis wrote about, and he talks about the story of Lancelot as an example of this, which I have questions around, because I'm pretty sure he was an adulterer, but go and read my first edition of the Sovereign Man magazine. You can see the link below if you want to, and I'll put another link to a video if you want to learn more about that. This is also the same archetype, I think. This feelings, this spiritedness, this auxiliary warrior class, the knight. This is the same archetype, I believe, as the patriarch, as I've been calling it over the last several years, which is at the heart of a framework I've been developing to help men with their own personal development. And, you know, I've been spearheading that work myself. I need to do that work as much as anybody else. And thank you, by the way, everybody who watched the last video and filled in the survey to get your feedback based on that framework I'm developing. I'm working through the responses now, so thank you for your patience. So why is it important to think about all of this? So when I look around the world, I see it in myself massively, but we significantly lack strong men in the world. And I've gone into some detail about what I think a strong man might be, but when there's no strong men, there's no strong male guidance, and we need more of that. It's significantly lacking, which is not to say we don't need strong female guidance as well, but we'd be much better to see more women stepping into femininity and showing us what that is, so we can balance that out within ourselves, as opposed to the trend of women becoming more like men. You know, it's just more excessive masculinity in the world. We don't have sufficient masculinity, healthy masculinity, but we also don't have sufficient healthy femininity. We need both. And as men being the majority shareholders in masculine energy, if you like, then we need to be stepping into that more than femininity, I would suggest. And, you know, there's exceptions to every rule, but there are rules for a reason. So the work to become a strong male guide, as far as I'm concerned, is the root of the knights, the patriarch of Aragorn. So go read the book, watch the videos, watch the movie, and get a sense of that, if that's the way you like to absorb information. It's to recognize your inherent nobility and to behave like it, being disciplined with your thoughts, feelings, and behavior and your actions, thinking about how to overcome those 7 deadly sins and to develop virtue, because with every iteration of objection to the temptations of the sins, allowing them to creep in, eating that extra thing that you know is not good for you, indulging in fantasies and thoughts about whatever, allowing yourself to go down the routes that aren't good for you, and you know it. Every time you iterate that, every time you do it, you strengthen yourself, you strengthen your will, you strengthen your feeling life, you grow into that knight, that patriarch. It's all about keeping evil at bay. The patriarch needs to know the reality of evil in the world, and that we are constantly facing off against it. It never leaves us alone, ever. As soon as we become complacent, let our guard down, it will find a way in straight away. It's the hardest work you'll ever do, this, that I'm suggesting, but it's where you will reap, very much reap, the most rewards. And I'll leave it at that for today. Any comments or questions, please check out all the links and all the videos that I posted to above. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.